Okay, so I wanted just to do a little discussion about what I want you to do in terms of an assignment out of class this week. So this is a screen capture just of Polylearn, and so you could see we're under week 7, and I have some items here I want to talk to you about. So first of all, there's a turn-in electronic hand-in option for your screening assignment. So those of you who are completing that up could go ahead and submit it, and I can start grading it. Here is the podcast, which is the lecture for this evening. It's about a 30-minute lecture over the features of the Wyatt. So start there. Here's the PowerPoint that I discuss in this podcast. So just in case you wanted to reference it later, there it is in PowerPoint form. And I also included the PowerPoint materials so you could see the screen captures that I used in the PowerPoint presentation if you wanted to use those as you're looking through the other materials here on Polylearn. So the other things that are on Polylearn are information relative to the math composite, the total reading composite, and the oral language composite. So next week in class, you guys are going to be responsible for administering a subtest from one of these 3 different composites. You will find out which subtest you're administering when you get to class. So I want you to be prepared to give any of these subtests. Now that doesn't mean you have to memorize all this information. I will give you both prep time to go over the administration guidelines of your subtest, um, and I will also give you whatever materials you will need to go over that. So don't memorize it, but you also won't have enough time if you're just completely not familiar with it at all. Probably going to have about 10 or 15 minutes to go over it before you need to administer. So I'm strongly encouraging you to utilize the time that you have now to go through each one of these composites, look at the guides to item administration and the scoring protocols so you're ready to administer whatever subtest I have for you next week. Okay, so let's look at what's in each one of these. So we click on the math composite. It'll open it up and there'll be math administration guidelines and math scoring protocols. So there's several subtests that are part of the math composite, and each one of those subtests is discussed here under the math administration guidelines. It'll talk to you about how to administer and what to look for in terms of scoring. And it also tell you a little bit about each subtest, what each subtest is about, etc. Here's the scoring protocols, so you can open up those scoring protocols to see not only information that's specific to that subtest in terms of administration, but also that's where you would actually do the scoring relative to the accuracy or inaccuracy of the responses. Okay, so let's see if I could go back. Here, scroll down. Sorry for the crazy view. Okay, so we looked at the math composite. Let's just look real quickly at the total reading composite. This one I kind of separated out. So here's the reading fluency materials, the reading fluency protocols, the pseudo word decoding, and the reading comprehension. The total reading administration guidelines for all the subtests are here. And here's some word reading protocols. So I separated some of these out because, for example, on the oral reading fluency, you have to show different passages. So all the passages are there, and you would show certain passages, depending on the grade level of the student. Okay, so pretty simply, all I want you to do for this evening is to watch the podcast relative to the Wyatt, which can be found right here. In fact, I'll probably rename this Wyatt Podcast. And then I want you to go through each one of these composites and pay careful attention to the guidelines of each composite, where they talk about each subtest, they talk about what each subtest measures, and they talk about any specific administration guidelines for that subtest, okay? Because the first thing that we're going to do in class next week is for you guys to go through a subtest and actually administer a subtest. So you need to be prepared to do that. next week in class. I'm available via email. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And thanks again for all your flexibility this evening.